I'm broke. I guess I'm a bit lazy. That's why I breastfeed. And they say it's good for the baby.
It's free of charge, it saves money, it's readily available. It's always delivered fresh, clean, and at just the right temperature, in beautiful, environmentally friendly packaging. Mother's milk is for babies. This has always been the case. Mother's breast and mother's milk hold a strong position today. Women breastfeed in most situations. They breastfeed regardless of their cultural background. And they breastfeed both babies and toddlers. Wherever a mother has the right to be, she also has the right to breastfeed. It goes without saying that the baby should be served as well. Today, 9 out of 10 Norwegian babies are breastfed at the age of 3 months. This has not always been the case. In 1967, only about 2 babies out of 10 were breastfed at that age. We need to remember why so few mothers managed to breastfeed in the past, so it won't happen again. The newborn was not laid at mother's breast until 24 hours after birth. Mother and child were separated, and the newborns were kept in a nursery most of the time, regardless of whether they were sleeping or crying out for their mothers. The mothers could only borrow their babies to breastfeed for short periods every 4 hours. As a result, their breasts were not properly stimulated, and most women produced little milk. The babies were given large volumes of formula by bottle. It was uncommon to breastfeed at night. Instead, mothers were given sleeping pills or paced longingly with aching breasts. Gro Nylander was one of the many who took charge back then. She still works with breastfeeding mothers.
Has it been hard?
In the beginning,
Yeah.
a little bit, and then it was very easy.
Better and better, because breastfeeding isn't always easy. Many women struggle because they don't get enough support. New mothers don't always have experienced breastfeeders to ask for advice. Some wean too early, either because they need some help they don't get, or because they're not aware of all the advantages of breastfeeding. Did you know there are great advantages for yourself as well? Your uterus returns more quickly to normal. The extra fat on your thighs and hips, meant as energy stores during breastfeeding, it tends to disappear after a few months of breastfeeding. During breastfeeding, you even produce less stress hormones, so you can more easily cope with having a new baby. Actually, breastfeeding also has long-term health benefits. Recent research indicates that breastfeeding may help you avoid illnesses later in life, for instance, diabetes. Perhaps most important of all, if you breastfeed your children, you'll definitely have a lower risk of getting breast cancer, one of the most serious threats to women today. Breasts come in many shapes and sizes. Small breasts can produce plenty of milk. Big breasts are also fine for breastfeeding. It's useful to know a bit about breastfeeding before the baby arrives.
As quickly as possible after birth, and at least within an hour or two, most babies want to suckle. In principle, it should suckle as often and as long as it wants, at night as well. This may sound tough for many moms, but it turns out that women who don't keep their babies with them at night get just as tired. so it's probably smarter to keep the baby with you and sleep as best you can between
Then I'll
feeds.
feel more secure when I go home.
And it's easier when you know how your baby acts around the clock.
The start is important. Back when breastfeeding wasn't going so well, the child was whisked away as soon as it arrived and met a harsh world far removed from mother's warmth. The hospital owned the baby. The mother could look, but not touch. Today, most maternity wards are more baby-friendly. If there's no medical problems, the newborn is put straight onto his mother's belly. Most babies, though not all, will quickly find their way to the breast. She makes characteristic calling sounds. The baby isn't ready to suckle straight away, but will gradually start moving her lips and tongue. She dribbles a little and tries putting a hand to her mouth. The first few hours after birth, the mother's hormonal response to the baby's touch is stronger than at any other time. She tries again. She does not give up. Nearly there. She finds the nipple all by herself. It's natural to help the baby to the breast when she shows signs of readiness, like here. Turn the baby towards you, front to front. Draw her close to you. Look at her mouth. Baby's nose is level with the nipple. Let her root and search and open wide to take a good mouthful of breast. Her bottom lip is curled outward. The chin lies against the breast, and she can easily breathe through the tiny gap by her nose. The intense suckling movements can be seen all the way back to her ears. Most babies can manage this during their first hour or two, but others need more time before they're ready, and there's always another chance. But with such a good latch on, she can suckle for as long as she wants to. When circumstances allow, uninterrupted contact is also possible in the event of a cesarean. Without warning, he is lifted out of his mother's womb. After thorough drying, he is put skin to skin with her during the operation. Now everything will feel much better. He is reassured by familiar sounds and smells and can start searching for the nipple at just the right time. This sturdy little fellow finds his way quickly and gets down to business right away. Even after the operation is over and the mother is moved to recovery, baby stays with her. The midwife gives a helping hand. While mother is under post-operative observation, father is responsible for baby when the midwife leaves. Sometimes a mother isn't available straight away. Then father's chest can provide warmth, security, and the sound of a heartbeat. But regardless of how it came into the world, the baby should as soon as possible be placed skin to skin with mother, undisturbed. The baby stays warmest in a maternal nest like this. The skin temperature of a mother's chest increases when her baby is placed there, and the newborn achieves normal body temperature more quickly. Even a heated incubator will not raise the baby's temperature as quickly, not to mention being left alone in a separate cot. Low body temperature and crying uses a lot of energy and can result in the baby's blood sugar going low. Keeping her newborn close feels great for most moms, and it benefits infants in many ways, not least the premature ones. Babies who stay skin to skin cry less. The levels of stress hormones are measurably reduced in both mother and child, and the breast receive early signals to start producing milk.
Why is it so important for the child to get mother's milk as early as possible? All mammals produce milk which is specially suited to their own offspring. This is also the case for humans. Mother's milk is tailor-made.
Is there a big difference between my own milk and formula?
What do pediatricians say about this? Dr. Morten Grønn works with both ill and healthy newborn children. Yes, there is. Formula is made from cow's milk and lacks a lot of what's found in mother's milk. Human milk is the best food for a baby and perfectly suited for his needs. The composition is ideal. Mother's milk contains a number of important substances which make the gut mature and absorb nutrition more quickly. The composition changes through each meal with the time of the day and the age of the child. The fatty acids in mother's milk are very important for the brain. The brain continues to develop even after birth, particularly in the first few years. Human milk is full of protective antibodies that support and mature the baby's own immune system. Mother's milk reduces the incidence and severity of a great number of infections. Compared to formula-fed infants, babies who are breastfed are much less likely to get serious diarrhea and urinary tract infections. They also have fewer and less serious episodes of pneumonia, bronchitis, colds, and ear infections, and keep on having a lower risk of lung infections for years after the breastfeeding ended. Especially in premature babies, mother's milk is strongly protective against later serious life-threatening infections. Research indicates a lower risk of cot death, childhood cancer, obesity, and diabetes. Even as an adult, you stay slimmer with a reduced risk of diabetes and several intestinal illnesses, if you were lucky enough to be breastfed as a baby. So the conclusion is that mother's milk is the best food and the best preventive medicine your baby can possibly get.
It's a lot of benefits to your mom, isn't it? What does it take to provide enough mother's milk for your baby? Today we know that the more you breastfeed, the more milk you will produce. Easy to say, but starting out with a new baby can be demanding. The baby needs to be in touch and be fed even at night. So from now on, mom must try to take a nap during the day, whenever possible. How very helpful then, that the breastfeeding hormones make you sleepy. It's tiring when baby wakes you, with little rest and many demands. The whole thing can feel overwhelming. But on the other hand, most babies and mothers sleep extra soundly after feeding. Most newborns want to suckle often after a day or two. They need to practice while the breast is still soft. And the frequent little tastes help to prevent infections. Who could believe that this is the same mother a few days later? When the baby gradually feels secure that there will always be a big body providing warmth and food, everything starts to feel better. In first-time mothers, the milk usually increases around the third day, but often earlier in mothers who have breastfed before. The first milk, colostrum, is usually yellowish. Gradually, it becomes white. Colostrum stimulates the digestion. The first stool is almost black. Then it gradually becomes yellow. Frequent bowel movements, preferably several times a day for the first few weeks, is a sign that the baby is getting enough food. Later, there may be days between movements. It's quite normal for the baby to suckle frequently, at least every couple of hours for the first few weeks. This will mean 8 to 12 feeds over 24 hours. Most women need at least 2 hours of effective suckling combined over a 24-hour period in order to produce enough milk. Some babies are very efficient at the breast and will let go when they have had enough to eat or because they're ready for breast number 2. Others need a lot of time. Either way, the suckling at the end of a feed with short pauses along the way can provide a lot of calories in a small volume, as the hind milk usually contains more fat. It's particularly important to feed jaundice babies frequently. The baby signals an interest long before it starts to cry. Take a look at the eyelids. Beneath them, the eyes are starting to move. The tongue becomes active and the baby makes little noises. A hand might go towards the mouth, and the lips begin searching. Now he's opening his eyes, but he's still calm, a good starting point for putting the baby to the breast. If he doesn't get any response now, he'll start squirming. Finally, he gets quite agitated, and it can be difficult to get a crying baby to latch on to the breast. If you keep the baby close, it's easy to recognize when he signals, "I'm ready." It's important that you are comfortable during breastfeeding. Pull the baby close to you, front to front. When lying down, it's often best to have your shoulder on the mattress and the pillow only supporting your head. Let the baby's head rest on the mattress, not on your arm, as that bends his neck. If you have trouble turning over, the baby can lie on a firm pillow and suckle from the upper breast. Then remove the pillow and nurse from the lower breast. Sitting up and leaning back in the bed is usually not an ideal position for feeding. The breasts will flatten and it's harder for the baby to latch on. The exception might be if the baby shows no interest in the breast. If he is then put skin to skin on mother's chest, the right instincts may be activated. Many women prefer to sit up while nursing. Particularly in the beginning, this makes it easier to see what's going on. A chair with a relatively straight back and armrests can work well. Make sure your feet are firmly planted and that the baby or the arm holding the baby are supported. Many mothers will eventually start using their thigh as a support. Some become very inventive. Here, a quick top-up for a little one who woke up right after being put down for his nap. It's easiest for the baby to lie facing the breast, usually belly to belly. But if the breast is drooping down, the baby's position is adjusted to suit. Some women like using a breastfeeding pillow, particularly for twins, or to support their own arms. The classical position is to cradle the baby's head in the crook of your arm whilst feeding. But it's often easy to adjust the baby if you slide your other hand under the neck. You might find it best to hold the baby's body under your arm. If the baby has a blocked nose or is fussy, it could be an idea to hold it upright. Notice how the baby bends its neck a bit backwards. That leaves the nose free. This can be useful at other times as well. Sometimes it might seem as if the baby can't breathe, but if you pull the baby's body a bit closer and allow the head to tilt backwards, the nose will come free. Other mammal babies usually hold their heads like this while feeding. Easy to breathe, easy to swallow. On rare occasions, it may be helpful to hold the breast away from the baby's nose. Make sure then that you almost push the breast towards the mouth so the baby's latch doesn't slip. The way the baby takes the breast is crucial. This baby has a poor latch and is only sucking at the tip of the nipple. Note the distance to the mole. Here the baby has opened wide and the mole is now much closer. The baby should have as big a mouthful as possible. That's less tough on the tip of the breast. In Norwegian, often called the breast bud. It's great if the baby looks as if it's trying to eat a big hamburger. For if the mouth is almost closed, as if sucking spaghetti, the nipple may get squeezed and can look distorted after a while, and it easily gets sore. The scent from the areolar glands has a powerful effect on the baby. Let baby calmly settle, nose close to the breast, and the interest might gradually be awakened. This energetic searching is helpful. It prepares the breast, the little mouth, and the digestion. Let the nipple point towards baby's nose. When the mouth opens wide, the breast must be there. Many babies need time before they learn to open the mouth well. Searching a bit, trying hard, big disappointment. Try to tease the baby's upper lip with a nipple. Good try, but still not enough. Offer the underside so that the baby has to open wide to catch the nipple. There we go. Again, have a look at what happened. Tempting, sniffing, searching, coaxing again, searching under the nipple, opening wide to catch it. A good latch.
Some little ones are far too sleepy, even though they need food. Mom, and then Dad, tries to stimulate her a bit. Don't stress. But maybe a little gentle stimulation will remind her of being in the womb. A lot of contact with mother. Let the baby sniff the breast. Try tempting. Not much response though. Both her cheeks can be massaged at the same time. If only the one is stimulated, she will turn that way. She's sleepy and not much interested right now, but benefits from a few tastes. After a little rest, she'll get another chance. On rare occasions, tongue tie may cause problems. The baby can't get the tongue out past the gums. This can be painful for the mother, as the child doesn't latch on properly and is struggling. Check if the tongue takes on a heart shape, easiest to see when the child is crying. An experienced doctor can cut the frenulum. It only takes a moment. The same baby a few weeks later. The tongue now comes well forward. Mother's discomfort is over. The tongue may now be placed comfortably under the nipple. The breastfeeding is going much better.
Our skin is meant to be dry most of the time. Let the fatty hind milk, which has an antiseptic effect, air dry completely on the nipple after breastfeeding. In the beginning, most women will leak a bit between feeds. If the breast is left covered and damp, the skin might suffer. Did anything stick to the nipples? Use water or express some milk to moisten it until it comes loose. If your breasts are heavy, you can use your bra as a balcony in the beginning to give them air. Even a soft bra can press the nipple inwards, just as it needs to stretch freely to prepare for the suckling of the baby. Even a light pressure can cause slightly impaired blood circulation of the nipple. Then it will tolerate less strain, and areas that are already sore will take longer to heal. With a milk collector like this, you can avoid pressure when you have to wear clothes. It has holes at the top for ventilation, but is closed at the bottom to catch drip milk. Breast ointments are normally not needed, unless the skin is particularly dry. But a thin stripe of mild cream just on a moist, painful sore will make it hurt less and heal quicker. Is there a crack at the base of the nipple? This may have been caused by stretching, because the baby has been hanging from the nipple or pulling it sideways. Most important to prevent soreness is helping the baby to get a good latch on at the breast. You can stimulate the breast a little beforehand. This will make the nipple firm and get the letdown reflex started. If you're sore at all, you must make sure you have clean hands, never touching the nipple itself. Otherwise, you might transfer bacteria that can cause mastitis. Nipple pain that continues in spite of a corrected latch-on may be caused by an infection. Have a bacterial test. Some women have flat or inverted nipples. It's particularly important that these have the chance to stretch. During the first few days, a lot can happen. Stimulating may help the nipple come out a little. It may also be sucked out by a bit of pumping or with the aid of a large upside-down syringe. Your counselor can help you. Now the nipple gives a clearer signal to the baby's mouth. Large, soft breasts may flatten when you're lying down. If you put something underneath your chest, it will make it easier for the baby. When sitting, a rolled-up washcloth under the breast can have the same effect. The milk runs upwards from the lower parts. If this causes problems, a lift or a little something underneath can help the milk flow more easily. If the breast is particularly soft, it might help to compress it a bit in order to get the milk flowing towards the baby's mouth. A breast can also be shaped to fit the baby's mouth better, depending on whether the baby is lying across the mother or alongside her body.
Notice the baby's hands. Most babies like to pat the breast. This stimulates the let-down reflex. Perhaps the hands will calm down when the milk is flowing freely, and then become more active again when it slows down. Other types of stimulation to the skin can also help the milk flow. A little massage, when the baby is well latched on and mother is sitting comfortably, can increase the breastfeeding hormones. Dad's support is important for a successful feed. Close contact through carrying the baby also increases hormones throughout the whole breastfeeding period.
In the beginning, I didn't quite believe in wearing a sling. We're not exactly hippie types. But when nothing else works, the sling is the only place she'll calm down. Getting on a bus, outdoors, getting upstairs.
Carrying also provides a short route to the dinner table.
Plus, I got both my hands back.
When the milk sets in after a few days, the breasts may become engorged. How on earth am I supposed to latch on here? It helps to let the baby suckle frequently from the very beginning. The blood flow to the breasts increases to more than double in those first days. The breast is hard, partly because it's swollen. One way of reducing the swelling is to shape your hand like a tulip and put the fingertips in a circle near the edge of the areola. Press for a while. Some tissue fluid will be pushed away, making room for the milk to flow. Then move your fingers around. Remember, short nails. Having stimulated the breast a few minutes first, you can also express some milk to make the areola soft and easier for the baby to latch onto. Push your fingers in towards your chest before squeezing them together. Here, the breast is still hard. A high pressure like this signals a stop in milk production. It's difficult for the baby to latch on. Here, it's softer, so the baby can get a mouthful of breast and milk more effectively. Engorged breasts can be prevented by the baby suckling frequently. Then, the breasts will quickly learn just how much milk is needed.
Grandparents can offer useful experience and advice. There are many ways of calming a baby. Some new grandmothers used to the old routines might worry that the baby will starve before the milk sets in. But normal-term babies do have energy reserves for those first days, when the baby is programmed to suckle a lot to get the small amounts of colostrum. For medical reasons, some babies might need to be fed a little while waiting for their mother's milk. Human donor milk is ideal. Cup feeding could be a good option. Let the baby sit up and bring the milk into contact with the lips. The baby is actively using the lips in a way which isn't interfering with its suckling technique. Cup feeding is useful also with older babies. If a larger amount is needed, a feeding tube can be a good solution. The breast is stimulated at the same time as the baby can practice, and is encouraged by getting plenty of milk. One end of the tube can also be placed in a cup. It's best for a baby to be fed only at the breasts in the beginning. Learning to suck with an almost closed mouth from a dummy or a bottle may confuse some babies. Learning breastfeeding works best with a wide open mouth. Be confident that the baby is doing well at the breast and that you have enough milk before giving a bottle or pacifier. Even later, a dummy must not replace extra breastfeeding, as the growing baby fuzzes to signal the need to increase milk production.
Some babies don't get the chance to practice suckling at the breast in the beginning, but closeness is important nevertheless. This little guy was born 10 weeks prematurely. Here he is, skin to skin with Mom for the very first time. Her warmth and her smell stimulate him. He's trying to look at Mother for the first time. He still has the lanugo hair from his fetal life. His skin is so unfinished and thin that his blood shows right through. He should still have been in the womb for a long while. All the same, he's already interested in Mother's breast. Mother expresses some colostrum, and he laps it right up. By letting him lie at the breast while he's tube fed, he learns to connect the breast with feeling full. His oxygen intake is higher next to the breast than in the incubator, and his color is also much better now. All his senses are being fed. He seems happy.
When mother and baby are apart, it's nice to have something at hand to remind you of the baby. Before pumping or expressing by hand, the breast should be prepared. That gives more milk. Try out what works best for you. Soft stroking of the skin, tapping with your fingertips, shaking, knuckles, stimulation straight on, clean hands and stay away from the tip. To get a good start when the baby can't suckle, you should pump or express by hand, preferably 8 times a day, a total of about 2 hours. Pumping both breasts at the same time gives high hormone levels and more milk in less time. Hand expression needs no extra equipment. For many women, this is the quickest way to express milk. The milk may be stored for 5 days in the refrigerator or for 3 months in the freezer.
How has it been since last visit?
Well, just fine, except that he's a bit more fussy.
That seems to fit the fact that he has put on a bit less weight than expected. He's trying to tell you that he's growing and actually needs to eat more often now. This will stimulate your breast to make more milk.
Oh, so that's why he's more demanding?
He's doing his job telling you what to do. Some babies don't do that. Their moms just think they have good babies and are surprised when we find that they're not putting on enough weight.
Should I feed him every time he cries?
Yes, I would try that for now.
Should I feed him a set number of meals?
No, because that depends on how much you're already feeding him. Just feed him when he asks for it without counting.
Oh, so that's the best, that he's fed when he wants to.
What do you do when a breastfed baby who has seemed satisfied until now suddenly is restless and fussy, especially in the afternoon and evening? Perhaps the solution is even more breastfeeding. It's as easy as any other comforting. Even though the breasts seem empty, the baby does get some milk, and the breasts get a clear message to increase production. Most mothers will experience times when the baby is particularly demanding.
I didn't realize how demanding she could be. Some days I would just nurse and nurse and nurse. But then I got more milk, and now I'm a milk donor.
All in all, it pays to listen in and respond to baby signals, even when it's not that convenient for mom. For the first time, you must be prepared for a tiny person to wake you up at any time. Most babies need night feeds for many months. Here, the baby's cot is securely fastened to the double bed. With the mattresses at the same level, the baby can easily be pulled right over. If the baby sleeps next to you, it's no hassle pulling the warm little bundle to your breast. It can be tiring, but night feeding has many advantages. More milk and higher levels of sleep-inducing hormones that help you sleep all the better between feeds. Studies show that mothers who don't breastfeed are just as tired. Babies are calmest near their parents. As long as you're not a smoker or under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and you make sure that the baby doesn't get too hot, give it plenty of space and its own cover, then it's nice and practical that a breastfed baby sleeps close to its mother. Feeding at night helps you avoid waking up with hard and gorged breasts. Sometimes an area of the breast gets tender and perhaps a bit red and swollen, most often after you've come home from the hospital. As a rule, this is due to blocked milk ducts. But if you develop a high fever and flu-like symptoms, you might be getting mastitis. Regardless, the most important thing is to get the milk flowing. Your baby is usually the best help, and the milk is not harmful to drink. When the milk is coming, and not before, you may massage your breast gently towards the nipple until the area softens. At times, it can help feeding upside down to what you're used to. The part of the breast that baby's lower jaw works on is most effectively emptied. Position the baby's chin towards the tender area that's difficult to get soft. Sometimes it seems impossible to get the milk out. A hot water bottle, a shower, or a hot bath might help. Submerging the breast in warm water relieves the pain. And after a while, the milk often starts flowing by itself. Help the breast get the milk out every other hour, one way or another, the next 24 hours. Make sure every time that it gets softer. If this doesn't help, and you have a high fever, you should see a doctor. It may be useful to bring a milk sample. Clean your nipples several times with boiled water. Discard the first few drops of milk and try to squirt milk directly into a sterilized container. You can usually continue breastfeeding while taking antibiotics. A bit will cross over into the milk, but it's not harmful for the baby. Mother-to-mother support groups are very useful. Try for information on the internet or call an experienced mom who is trained to give advice about breastfeeding. Such support groups have helped many women who would otherwise have given up. Even if you have practically stopped breastfeeding but would like to get started again, your milk production can recover with the help of an eager baby, frequent breastfeeding and skin contact, and possibly even a feeding tube on the breast. Not everyone has breast milk to give. Still, the baby can get a lot of closeness and warmth. Some mothers are unable to breastfeed their babies, perhaps due to breast reduction surgery, hormonal disturbances, illness, or strong medication. If you are one of those who can't breastfeed in spite of all the good support in the world, be glad that we have adequate substitutes for mother's milk. The baby is well fed and can still get plenty of tenderness, skin to skin. Some women have problems with one breast. Remember that it's possible to breastfeed fully from just the other one. The best proof of this is that most women can breastfeed twins. With a little practice, you can nurse both at once. Perhaps that's why breasts come in pairs. For some, it's actually impossible to breastfeed the babies simultaneously. This mother has plenty of milk, but not enough breasts to go around. You can continue breastfeeding after going back to work. This is easiest after 7 to 8 months, when the child also should be well onto other food and drink. You have the right to take time off work to breastfeed, whether you do it on the job or keep shorter hours. When you arrive home tired, there is no better way to give a waiting child food and closeness while you too relax.
If the breastfeeding is going well, how long should I continue?
We believe it's beneficial for both mother and baby, but to talk about the baby, fully breastfed babies with normal growth do not need any supplements to mother's milk during the first 6 months. After that, solid food should be introduced very gradually in addition to breastfeeding, so that the slowly increasing need for iron, other nutrients, or energy is covered. Some babies may need solids earlier, but they should not be given before the age of 4 months. Introducing other foods while the child is still being breastfed can also help prevent gluten intolerance, hypersensitivity to foods containing gluten, such as porridge and bread. Usually it's best to breastfeed before giving the baby other food. The World Health Organization recommends breastfeeding at least into the baby's second year.
A prolonged period of breastfeeding can be beneficial for the health of both mother and child. Even a few mouthfuls, perhaps just in the morning and at night in the last months, are full of protective antibodies and work like a small daily vaccine, while the child gradually builds up her own immunity. Kindergarten toddlers who still get some mother's milk are less ill. Some women even choose to breastfeed during their next pregnancy and longer. It may work well, but it must be stopped if there are signs of premature contractions. Also, the whole family needs to feel comfortable with this, and the new baby must have priority. Most mothers choose to stop well before the next baby. Often the child will decide for itself. Yeah, no more breast? Oh, you want an apple?
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Of course, it's tiring to have a small child who demands food and attention day and night. Fortunately, for many women, breastfeeding is simple and problem-free from the start. But for others, it takes a substantial commitment of time and energy, particularly in the beginning. Remember that breastfeeding is an investment that gives huge returns, both short and long-term. Breastfeeding is going well now. Your child is probably healthier with a better development than she would have had without your milk. And your own health is strengthened for years to come.
I've been really fed up at times when she's just been crying and crying. But then again, I see just how extremely easy and simple it is. I guess I'm still a bit on the lazy side. And she hasn't been ill for one single day. And I feel in great shape myself. The boyfriend seems to think it's great too. We just started her off on some other food now, but I don't think there's any doubt in her mind that she prefers my boobs. So I let her have it for as long as it seems all right to.